It's been great.
We're on. Whoa, too fast. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Dr. Drew Ebel. Today we are going to do a really relevant and special topic that I really just appreciate and think is a really important lesson that we all could take a few lessons from. It's all going to be based on kids' health, which, yeah, is really relevant right now. We're coming into flu season, and everybody's in school now, or some people are in school, and obviously immunity and viruses and sickness and all that is a huge topic right now. So we're going to touch on some of that today and go over all the different ways that our kids are becoming less and less healthy, more and more sick, and what things we can do to change some of those things. So just to kind of start off, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. This is me and my family. My son Baker, he's about a year old here. He's now 2, so he is just one of the kids that I've had a part of and sort of raising and seeing him develop and grow and nurture. And so he's my one biological son, and I've actually had the wonderful opportunity to get to spend time with 8 other foster kids that we've had in our house over the last 4.5 years now. So I've seen an extreme wide range of different situations that kids have come into this world with. I've had newborn babies all the way up to 6-year-olds. I've had kids that have only lasted in my home for a month, and some that have gone up to 2 months. And so we've really had a lot of experience with dealing with different health issues and traumas. We've had kids who have had physical traumas, chemical traumas from while they were still inside their mom, while mom was maybe doing drugs or different things like that. And so a wide range of things that I've dealt with. Also working as a chiropractor, we work with all kinds of people, but I really love and enjoy taking care of kiddos, because the reality is the way we shape our kids, our kids' health from a very early stage is really setting the stage for the future health of that individual. Literally, like a person's health begins before they're even conceived. The mother's health really dictates a lot about what that kid's going to undergo throughout their lifetime. The time that kid spends in the womb, the 9 months of development, are massively important as far as what that kid is going to experience, good and bad, in the future as not just a kid, but a teenager, and even long into adulthood. It's absolutely fascinating how much our lifestyles and health impact our children's health in the future. So let's kind of start there and just talk a little bit about that, like how nutrition is super important. Obviously, you talk about chemical health. We know that smoking and alcohol are going to cause negative outcomes for our kiddos, but we don't often talk enough about the just plain nutrition that the mom is consuming while pregnant. The amount of sugar that a mom is eating or drinking throughout pregnancy can really alter and shape a kid's future, whether or not that kid is going to be obese or diabetic, mood disorders, ADD. There's scientific literature that links all of those different conditions just to what the mom is eating during her pregnancy with the child. Lifespan is massively contributed based on what the mother eats, whether she's getting good nutrients, valuable nutrients through greens, fruits, vegetables, or not. And you can see studies in countries where you have wet and dry seasons, and when mom doesn't have access to quality food sources, that child is not expected to live as long. So it really starts from before that baby's even conceived and all throughout pregnancy. And then obviously a lot can change, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into as soon as that child is born and throughout their first 2 years and toddlerhood and so forth. So let's dive into that a little bit next, okay? So here's our office. This is where I get to work and see obviously a wide range of individuals, including the kiddos. We've got all kinds of different techniques and adjusting styles and different ways that we can help assist families with their overall health and well-being, from chiropractic care, working on the spine and nervous system, to nutrition, exercise, fitness, all those types of components. So here's a question that I really want you guys to just stop and ponder for a minute. Do we live in a healthy or sick country? What do you think? So my hope is that at the very least, you can recognize that we live in a sick country right now. We're really, really sick. We have all kinds of different medications and we're living longer, sort of. Obviously, the trend has been, we're living into our 70s and 80s nowadays. But what the data shows is those years that we're living longer, once we hit 65, typically we're on multiple medications and we're mostly disabled, meaning we can't really enjoy those next 10, 20, 30 years because we're sick, we're immobile, we're on medications, we're in pain all the time, we have no energy, those types of things. And what's really, really frightening is over the last, I think it's 2 or 3 years now, we're seeing a shift where the life expectancy was always moving upwards. It always trended upwards. And the last couple of years, the kiddos that were being born are actually expected to live fewer years. Life expectancy has started to decrease, which is kind of a startling statistic if you think about it. So all the different medications that kids are on, we're seeing increases in childhood obesity. We're seeing massive increases in kiddos with diabetes. We're seeing suicide rates go up, depression, anxiety rates going up. It's so much. And what really concerns me is we're starting to think that that's normal. Like it's not normal unless you're on a medication or you're taking antibiotics or you're taking an antidepressant. Like those things aren't necessarily normal, guys. It's just because, I think it's like 1 in 3, 1 in 4 females now are taking an antidepressant, which is, it's not the way it needs to be. We don't have to be in that situation. And again, like I said, it all starts early on in life. We could talk for a long time about how, the diet, the nutrition, the exercise, how technology, all of those things influence a person's health for the long term. So let's talk a little bit more about that on the next slide here. So sick care versus health care. If you look on the left-hand side, you can see a cabinet full of medications. And some people would say that's healthcare, is we have all these different medications and prescriptions and antibiotics and anti-inflammatories and asthma medications and allergy medications. Well, that's not really healthcare, that's sick care. A really good, healthy, functioning body doesn't need those things. We're not short of medication. A healthy person is not somebody who needs more medication. If you're taking medication, that means you have a problem. There's a sickness, there's an issue going on. And really what that medication is doing is just masking it or preventing your body from doing what it's supposed to do. Obviously, if you look on the right-hand side, that's more of a preventative approach. It's what's giving your body the ability to do what it's supposed to do, allowing it to adapt. It's giving, let me check what the next slide is so I don't go too far. Yeah, so we're going to get to what all of those nutrients do. Is going to help your body to function the way it's supposed to. So health equals the body's ability to adapt to stress. So what does that really mean? And that's what it's all about, guys, is how well do you adapt to stress? How are you influencing your kids' health so that they can adapt to whatever stress is thrown at them? And there's all different kinds of stress, and they're not necessarily all bad. So for instance, a kid, might slip and fall. That's a physical stress. They injure their knee. Their body has to adapt and heal that. It has to repair the damage to those areas. But there's good physical stress, like just exercise. If you're running around, your body's bones develop, your muscles grow and shape and get stronger. That's your body adapting to stress. That's good stress. We do tummy time for kids, right? And what that's for is it requires that the kid lifts their head up. So it's strengthening those muscles that do that. And it's also forming the new curvature in their neck. So the neck should curve back like this. And that's super, super important for the health and longevity of somebody's spine. And one thing I see all the time nowadays, people come into the office, is they lack that cervical curve, that cervical lordosis, which creates a ton of different health concerns and health problems as far as neck pain, headaches, shoulder problems, you name it. We could talk all day about just that, but that's a good physical stress that our bodies are able to adapt to. And so we have to undergo stress throughout our lives. That's the important element to all this, is we have to deal with stress in an appropriate manner. Other types of stress would be, foreign elements, foreign bodies that enter our bodies. So now we're talking like viruses and bacteria. Believe it or not, guys, we are all going to be subject to viruses and bacteria all the time, billions of them every single day. It's, does our body adapt to that stress or not in an appropriate fashion? So for instance, when you get attacked by a bacteria, if a bacteria invades your body, especially in an infant or a baby less than 1 year old, it's normal for them to get sick, to have a runny nose, to have a fever. That's the body's way of adapting to that stress or that bacteria. A runny nose, a stuffy nose, that's your body preventing further infiltration of more bugs, more bacteria, which could be harmful. So that's not necessarily a bad thing to have a stuffy running nose. A fever is extremely important to help fend off that bacteria or viruses. They can't survive at a certain temperature. Most bacteria and viruses can't survive once you get over that 101, 100-degree fever. That's why our bodies do it. Obviously, we have to control it and manage it appropriately. But guys, it's okay to see, depending on the age of your kid, and you can look up different graphs to see what's the safety limit depending on the age. But it's okay to have a 103-degree fever. That doesn't necessarily necessitate the taking of a Tylenol or something to reduce that fever. When you do that, you're taking away your child's natural innate ability to eliminate that virus or bacteria. So we have to allow things like that to happen. That's okay for us to get sick and to develop that immune system, to develop the body's natural warriors, the fighters, the white blood cells that go on attack and evade off of all those bacteria and problems. What's not okay is when we go in and we immediately start giving our kids antibiotics, which go and just, it might kill off the bad bacteria in our body at a little bit faster rate. I think studies have shown that antibiotics might reduce the course of, say, an ear infection or a cold by about a day. But have you ever looked at what the consequences of taking that antibiotic could do? Many of you might know this now because it's a huge, huge topic, but the gut microbiome is incredibly important to overall health. We actually have more bacteria in our gut, in our digestive tracts, than we have cells creating our actual body. So we're more cells of bacteria than we are human cells, which is crazy to think about. But that just means that we rely immensely on those bacteria for our body's function, for our ability to do so many different things. And when we take an antibiotic, we don't just kill the bad stuff, we kill the good stuff too. And that can have really, really long-term effects because our gut houses about 80% of our immunity, and those bacteria live in the gut. So those are intricately related. They're linked together. And so we need to have those bacteria to have a proper immune function. And that's why we see all the time where, a kid gets sick, we rush them to get an antibiotic. It might get them through that sickness, that particular incident, but then they're sick in a week or two again. And then we go through the same process of antibiotics, get better, get sick right away again. And it's just a continuous course. And not only is it just our kids are sick all the time, but we might be getting more ear infections and those types of things. But we also know when we lose those good bacteria in our bodies, it's going to link to things like leaky gut, which could lead to allergies or asthma or diabetes, insulin resistance, obesity, mood disorders like depression, anxiety. Those are all things that have been shown through the research to be linked to having dysbiosis or a problem with the microbiome in our guts. So every time we think to ourselves, well, we just need to do an antibiotic, maybe guys, I'm not here to say that antibiotics are absolutely never necessary, because they are at times. There's definitely a time and a place for antibiotics and medications, but we really gotta look at the risk and reward ratio to giving our kids so many different antibiotics or Tylenols or all these different medications when our bodies are designed to do that job already. They can do it. We have to allow it. We have to nourish it. We have to be okay with having a fever and having our kids be sick for a little while. And then in the long term, we're going to see less illness through the course of their, early toddler years and childhood years. But yes, as a baby, they're going to have to get sick once in a while, and that's okay. We just have to we have to allow for that. And guys, there's definitely things that we can do to support that. And it involves their nutrition, their spinal health, their environments, their, just how much nurturing you do with your child makes a big difference on their ability to thrive or not thrive. So there's many things that we can talk about, and we could spend all day on that. But if you have any questions or want to go in further detail with that, be sure to just reach out, send me an email or something like that. But we're just going to have to keep moving on here for today. So these are kind of the things that we talk about in our office on a regular basis. Is first off, if you look at the bottom, kind of assess. You can usually assess for yourself where you or your kids might fall on this healthcare continuum. So are you really well? And by well, I mean you have a ton of energy. You can run around and enjoy your day. You can go to work, or as kids, you can go to school all day and still have energy to play. You're going to get a lot of rest. You're going to sleep well. You're not going to get sick very often. When you do, you recover quickly. That's the wellness side of things. On the reverse, you can see the illness side of things on the far left, where you're taking multiple medications, and that could be as a child or as an adult. You're tired all the time. You're sleepy, depressed, whatever. That's the illness side of things. And so we have to first figure out where somebody's at on that. And then we figure out why they're there, which could be related to the chart on the top here. So those are the three main stressors that we all undergo at any point in time. We might be under one or all three of those types of things. And this is more maybe related for adults, and especially not mental emotional stress. Kiddos also have the same types of mental emotional stress, or they have the same different stressors in their life. They might just be a little different. But physical stress, especially for a kiddo. So just birth, the act of being born is both physical for the mom and the child. That's a lot of trauma, especially to the upper cervical region when a baby comes out, and that's whether naturally, vaginally birth or via C-section. There's a lot of trauma to the upper cervical region, head, neck area. So that's why we get checked regularly for physical stress. I have my kids get checked. I adjust my kids literally from the moment I can. The moment I can get my hands on my son, I had him adjusted. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. You can have your kids adjusted hours within birth. And it's very light, very effective, easy to do. But that's the first, physical stress that a kid might have. They might have undergone biochemical stress throughout the pregnancy, right? We kind of already touched on that. What the mom ate is going to go into that baby's bloodstream. And then the moment they're born, anything they're in contact with, the food, the air, the environment, the stuff you rub on them, chemicals, toxins, lotions, those are all biochemical stressors that child can be influenced by. And then mental, emotional stress, obviously, whatever that environment that child is in, are they being nourished or not nourished as far as comforted through their parent, their moms and dads? Are they around a lot of yelling, screaming, or is it nice and peaceful and calm and relaxing, soothing for that child? All of that influences that child's overall health and well-being. So other physical stresses, obviously, for kids as they start to age, sitting too much. We see a lot of kids playing video games or sitting at school all day. We're reducing the amount of time kids have recess or get to play outside. Sports are being limited. Those are all negative physical stresses. We have to move. We have to have activity and good posture. If we're going to be sitting all day, we've got to be able to get up, move around, and we've got to teach our kids how to have good posture when they are studying or doing homework or sitting at school. And then obviously nutrition. Early on in life, guys, it's so very important that if you can be breastfeeding those kids, get as much breast food into that kid as possible. It's really critical that we avoid the sugars. I was just reading a study from the American Heart Association. They say that kids from 0 to 2 should have 0 added sugar in their diet. None. How many people can say that their kid never had any sugar from 0 to 2? I think they said 98% of kids have some added sugars. And you can have sugars from natural sources, fruits, vegetables, that type of thing, but no added sugars. So that means Any processed foods, crackers, sweets, those are all going to have added sugars. Even fruit juices, like your kid shouldn't have any fruit juices from 0 to 2. When we look at milk, milk can be very damaging to a child's digestive system. We're talking dairy milk here. It can be very damaging to their digestive tracts. Glutens, wheats, those can also damage their digestive tracts, which again is linked to all kinds of crazy things, including allergy, asthmas. Guys, we see so much of this coming in nowadays that it never used to be so much different allergies that we see all the time now, that people are allergic to this and that. And it's definitely linked to what we're feeding them and when. So that's something I would recommend for every parent, is to go out and look and see what can my kids have and at what age. And I promise you guys, you can definitely introduce or not introduce certain foods to your kids. It's okay. And we've seen it time and time again. We've had a number of kids who've entered our homes who have never had a fruit or vegetable in their entire lives. And we just work with them. We continue to introduce it to them every single meal. And we don't offer them the junk that they're used to having. Don't offer them the fruit juices. And eventually they just get hungry enough where they're going to eat something. And so you have to work with your kids. You have to put in the effort yourself. And the other thing I'll piggyback on that is, your kids are going to do what you do. So you have to check your own health. Are you eating what you want your kids to eat? Are you looking at your own self well-being? Because your kids are going to emulate and model mostly everything you do. Super, super important that you look both ways. And your kids will emulate whatever you do. If you're going to eat good foods, your kids will eat good foods. If you're going to exercise, your kids are going to exercise. I've never once had any of my kids not start exercising if they see me exercising. If I'm on the floor doing push-ups, they want to do the same thing. So they're going to watch you. They're going to do what you do. And I hear all the time, my kid has this or that because it's genetic. Well, maybe it has something to do with they were doing everything that you guys did, or vice versa. So there's a lot to how your kids are behaving as far as exercise, eating, those types of things. All right, so real quick, these are just some signs and symptoms that your kid is not adapting properly. So yes, you're going to get ear infections, colds, flu. Those are a couple things on here where those are okay to happen. We just don't want it happening over and over again. But if your kid is colicky, having regular fevers, headaches, hyperactive, developmental delays, like we talked about, allergies, constipation, if your kid has those on a regular basis, that's not something where you just want to medicate away. Those are things that your body is saying, I'm missing the key elements to function properly. If you look at like a carpenter, you wouldn't expect a carpenter to be able to build a house without a hammer. Your body needs a lot of different essential vitamins, minerals, nutrients, environmental things to do what it's supposed to do. And if you give it to them, if you give your kids proper nutrition, proper sleep, they're going to be able to function properly. They're going to be able to go to the bathroom okay. They're going to be able to eat and breathe in different allergens, which, don't normally affect people in most circumstances, but nowadays it continues to become worse and worse. But not every kid has that. And that's because some kids have all the tools they need, and some kids maybe just are lacking in a few things. So that's really what you have to look at, is how can I figure out what is my child missing or not doing enough of or not getting enough of that's leading to some of these signs or symptoms. And if I can introduce those to my kid, then I can avoid having some of these problems. Guys, I think in the last 4.5 years with the 9 kids that I've had, I've seen maybe 2 ear infections. And that's just because we give them the stuff that they need. We regularly do vitamins for our kids. We do fish oils for our kids. We do probiotics for our kids. Those are all things that our kids need in order to function properly and not come down with chronic ear infections. Colicky stuff, guys, well, let's just dive into a couple of these specifically. Well, physical stress, I'm sure you guys see this all the time with your kiddos. The average 2-year-old falls 38 times per day. Obviously, that's a physical stress. That can throw off some alignment things, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute here with chiropractic care. So as far as physiology goes, in order for your body to function properly, you have to have good communication. Your brain is what controls and regulates everything in your body. And if we can't communicate properly, if our brain can't communicate down our spine and out to our body properly, it's not going to work as well. So I'm not going to spend all day on chiropractic care, but that's really the essential things we do in our office is we make sure that the alignment of the spine is working well. Therefore, the nervous system works well. And if our nervous system is functioning at its best, our bodies can do, it does what it's supposed to do, essentially. This is a picture of a nerve that comes out of our spine. So these nerves can get influenced if we're misaligned. If a misalignment happens, we can prevent our ability for motor control, for sensation. That's why we get like numbness and tingling. And then obviously the autonomic portion. That's something that's really, as far as kids go, you know, whether they have allergies or digestive problems, breathing problems, those nerves have to communicate to the heart, lungs, and digestive system really well. And if there's a misalignment in the spine, it can't necessarily do that. So we have to make sure we're checking the spine and making sure alignment is good. And that happens from, like we said, early on, right away at birth. You could have misalignments in the neck, which interferes with the nerves, and then things don't work the way they're supposed to. Here's a depiction of the spine and how different areas of the spine are related to different functions of our body. So at the upper neck here, you can see how those areas of the spine, the nerves in that area of the spine, are going to communicate with things like our immune system, our ears, our sinuses. All those things can be influenced. So if we have a problem with that area of the spine, those systems might not work as well. We talked a lot about how the digestive system has our immune system in here. So if these bones down here are out of alignment, they're going to influence our digestive system and our immune system big time. And then everything in between, everything is being controlled and regulated through the nervous system. All right, so now let's just talk a little bit about some of the key areas with kids, some of the problems we see on a regular basis all the time here at the office. This is something, you know, I see parents complaining about pretty much daily. So let's just touch base on some of these. We've already kind of talked about the basis for why we get these things and how to fix them. And it's all about the same, guys. Are you taking really good care of the body? Are you giving the body what it needs to do its job appropriately? So all of these can be related to the spine, ear infections, C4 in your neck right here. The nerves there communicate right to that eustachian tube. The eustachian tube is what allows the ear to drain. If you can't get your ear to drain, bacteria builds up or viruses build up, and then all of a sudden you have an ear infection. So we've got to make sure we're making sure the spine is intact and the nerves are communicating to that eustachian tube so they can drain properly. Other things that can create ear infections, teething, birth trauma, dairy we talked a little bit about. So dairy is mucogenic, meaning it produces more mucus. Some mucus is okay. When there's too much and your body can't regulate it, you're going to have buildup and then things can't drain appropriately. Again, fevers, flu, cold, all the sickness type of things. We talked about how your spine and nerves in your upper neck are related to your immune system. Therefore, you need to make sure those nerves are communicating properly to your immune system so you can have an appropriate immune response. You're gonna get attacked by different bacteria and viruses. That's okay. It's a matter of are our bodies going to be able to fend that off? Can your kids mount a proper immune response to those issues and take care of that in a timely manner? Birth traumas, weakened immune system, like we talked about. Are you getting in your vitamin D, your vitamin C? We all know is important, but there's so many other components. You know, your body needs zinc, it needs vitamin A, it needs all kinds of different minerals and vitamins. Those are the hammers that a carpenter needs. If you don't have them, you can't fight off properly, and you can't get that from a diet where all you're eating is crackers or puffs and you know, very, very limited diets don't include all those things. So you're going to have to introduce newer foods, more foods, fruits and vegetables to your kids. You've got to have, and even then, like, it's still hard. I know kids that can be very, very picky, and that's where you've got to find a good multivitamin. Like I said, we use multivitamins regularly with our kids, fish oils, and the probiotics. Those are kind of the big three that, you know, I've seen amazing results with our kids. Too much sugar in the diet reduces the immune system as well. We talked about that already. Kids are getting way too much sugar in their diets. There should be 0 added sugars in the first 2 years. ADD, ADHD. Another big problem in today's society, we're seeing immense numbers of this going on now, and most people just medicate this, guys, and that's not necessarily the first step. That doesn't have to be the first step to correcting a kid with ADD, ADHD. We've got to look at the spine, were there traumas at birth, what's their diet like, are they getting proper nutrients in, are they adding too many stimulants into their diet, are they having too much sugar, are they getting too many dyes and food colorings and additives and artificial sweeteners. Those are all things that are going to contribute to issues in the brain, ADD, ADHD, anxiety, all kinds of things. I know colic is something that can be extremely hard on not just the kiddos, but parents in general can really struggle when a kid will just not stop crying all day, every day. We've seen this a few times with some of the kids we've had who have been exposed to drugs while in the womb, and it's really tough. It can be really hard, and I've worked with a number of parents who have literally gone to their wits' end and been near divorce because of their kid suffers from colic so severely, and it influences so many aspects of our lives and our well-being as parents even. So this is something that we really want to take seriously, and subluxations especially are things that can be reduced through chiropractic care, and we can see immense changes in a colicky baby just through chiropractic care. I've seen it firsthand a number of times, guys, and it's amazing. It's very well worth your time. If you've got kids who are suffering from excessive crying, can't stop crying, crying all night long, and you're struggling with it, please have your kids checked for subluxations or misalignments of their spine, because it can make a huge difference. Obviously, nutritional things, we talk about the diet, formula, different things like that can cause tummy aches and things like that for kids. So we have to make sure we're looking at what we're giving our kids, as far as if you're breastfeeding, what is mom eating? And if you're using formula, what kind of formula are you using? Are you using the right type for your child? Obviously, I'm a proponent of doing breast milk as much as possible if you can. But obviously, if you're using formula, there's different types you can play around with too. We've had to do that a number of times with our kids as well. But definitely seek out a chiropractor for a kid if they're suffering from colic. Asthma is another big one. Breathing issues, guys, that's something where our bodies should adapt to that. Our kids should be able to run it through the playground and not suffer from breathing issues. They should be able to breathe in a little bit of dust here and there. They should be able to, live a normal life without struggling with breathing. There's a number of different things that could influence asthma. I was just looking at a study that talked about, again, that dysbiosis, not having enough of the proper bacteria in our guts is linked to asthma. So kids who have been on a lot of antibiotics in their lifetime, they may need a probiotic to help reintroduce more bacteria, good bacteria into the body. Sugar is linked to it. There's a lot of different things. And that's the tricky part of all this, guys, is there's no one hard, easy answer for what's creating all these problems or what's the solution to all these problems. It can be a number of different things, and we have to do a deep dive into all of them. And that's what we try to really do when we're here at the office is get a full detailed exam history on that kid and see what areas we need to fix or improve upon to help out with this. Again, subluxation, guys. My wife suffered from asthma for most of her life, all the way up until I was in chiropractic school. I remember the first time we talked about asthma and how we can work on that T1, T3, which is the upper spine right here. Those nerves communicate directly to your lungs. They help to open, dilate the bronchi in your lungs and allow for oxygen to get into your lungs. As soon as we started adjusting my wife, she stopped using her inhaler altogether. She had used it her entire life. And all of a sudden she didn't need it anymore. And there's other techniques that you can do besides just adjusting things you can do at home that we can show you, teach you here at the office to help prevent asthma attacks. And also make sure you're looking at what the side effects of some of those inhaler medications that people use. There's many different types of medications, inhalers, things like that. And a lot of them have side effects, guys, and they can be very, very long-term detrimental side effects. So make sure you're talking to your doctor who's prescribing those medications to your kids, and address those as necessary. Kind of the same thing with allergies. Gut health is so important, guys. We have to be able to introduce the right foods to our kids at the right time, avoid too many antibiotics, make sure we're keeping the gut really, really healthy. I don't know why all those clicked out of there right away. Moving on. Constipation and digestive issues. Again, subluxations of the spine linked right to the digestive tract. Lack of movement. Again, we've kind of already touched on that. If your kids aren't getting enough exercise, if they're not moving, if they're playing too many video games, they're going to have digestion issues. We've got to look at the diet. We've got to look at the activity level. We've got to look at the stress level. If they have a lot of environmental stress or mental emotional stressors, that influences our digestive system as well. So everything's got to be addressed. We've got to look at the whole body, guys. And then sleeping issues. Sleep is so important. It's critical for the development of our kids' brains, their ability to heal and recover and grow. They have to be getting good rest and proper sleep, which means we've got to be supporting that. We've got to be working hard to make sure they can get good sleep. They've got to have a good sleep environment. We can do sleep training things. There's got to be a regimen. We've got to avoid the lights at night, the iPads, the phones, all of those things that emit the light into the eyes and the brain, which prevent our bodies to go into a sleep mode. Here's a scan that we do in our office that just looks at whether or not a person is in a sympathetic state or a parasympathetic state. We need to have a balance, which is on the right side versus on the left side. That person is not properly functioning. Their nervous system is not functioning properly. They're in an imbalanced state where they're more sympathetic dominant versus parasympathetic, and that person's not going to adapt or function the way they're supposed to. And that's usually related to when somebody's subluxated. If they have misalignments of the spine, they're going to not be able to adapt as well. So I've done a lot of interesting tests where we've tested somebody with this scan, adjusted them, and retested. And basically it goes from the left side to the right side on this diagram. So popping this slide up again, guys, I really encourage you to just take a good hard look at not just your kids' health. Figure out where your kids are at on this. Figure out where your health is at on this as well, and make a decision. Are you doing well? Are you adapting well? Do you feel like you're just kind of the normal, which in my opinion is not necessarily a healthy population? If you're getting sick all the time, if you're not getting good sleep, if your kids are tired all the time, if they're angry, if they're frustrated, if they have allergies or immune problems or asthma, if they have all those issues going on, then they're probably more on that left side, the illness side of things. And we need to figure out what we can do to get them moving in the right direction, because it's not just a short-term thing that they're just maybe going to grow out of. The issues that kiddos have early on in life are usually going to last for a long time. They may never get out of those completely. And it just gets harder and harder and harder as you age to change those habits, especially if they're just used to, the refined sugars, the fruit juices, the sweets, the processed foods. That becomes very, very challenging to get out of that state. It gets hardwired into their brains, and they literally become addicted to a sedentary lifestyle or sugars or whatever it might be. And so the earlier on we can address those things, the better off that child's entire life through adulthood is going to be. Here's some scans that we do in our office to test how the nervous system is functioning, or if there might be some subluxations in the area. This is looking at inflammation of the spine. Obviously, this person has got a lot going on. Obviously, this is something we'd want to address and reduce the stress throughout the spine. And that's going to wrap things up, guys. So that was a lot of information. I know I was kind of quick through some of that stuff. We could go into a lot more detail. Obviously, my email is listed here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email, or you can set up an appointment. If you're in the area, we'd love to get your kids checked out and see if there's stuff that we can work on. If there's things that they're dealing with or you're struggling with and you just haven't been able to figure it out, and you're tired of using the medications and different things like the normal resolution things right now, please feel free to reach out. Email me, give us a call. We'd love to see if there's something we can do to help. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Have a wonderful day.